everybody. It's great to be back here again. Tomorrow's Friday, Parashat Ki Tavo, another portion that is connected to our part of the woods here in Itamar. But we can't avoid speaking about current events. I mean, what happened this week with the Hezbollah, with the exploding beepers and walkie-talkies, obviously is something that is not, it's beyond nature. It's something that really is a miracle that whoever did this, right? It's something that is literally godly. It can't happen without God, the divine intervention. I'm not going to go there now in all the details and talking how they did this and how it was planned and all that. But when I think about it, and I go back and I look in the Torah for some kind of precedent of such a thing in the history. So you look in the Torah. That's why we always look in the Torah for some kind of example of this. And what comes to mind right away was Egypt. The firstborn, God striking the firstborn in Egypt. They were literally, caught off guard. In 1 second, boom! All the firstborn were dropping like flies. And that's what catalyzed the whole letting Israel go. And we know that the world, of course, right away is already complaining about Israel and this, and they're going to have a special meeting, the UN, and to denounce Israel. Knows what the next plot they're going to come against Israel with, or in Hague or in these other places to try to come against Israel for defending itself. I mean, if anyone is aware of the Hezbollah, how evil they are, and their plan is to destroy Israel together, of course, with their wonderful allies and the leader from Iran, and all the proxies, as we all mentioned, we know about from east to west, and all those proxies. They're working on their plan a very long time, and Israel is contending with pure evil and has to fight the battles of the world, because the world is not waking up. And in any normal situation, if the world would see what Israel's doing, fighting against an evil enemy, they would say, how can we help you? How can we jump in and help eliminate the Hezbollah? These are evil terrorists that the Lebanese people, a lot of them themselves, just want them out of there. And this kind of hatred in the world is something that is so dangerous, is eventually going to swallow up the world if the world doesn't get rid of it. And Israel has all kinds of agreements and treaties with the West, right? United States as their big ally and other allies. But right away, the first thing they did, we have nothing to do with this. We have nothing to do with this. They're pulling away, and they're not. They should be, they should be coming to Israel and say, let's go and take down the Hezbollah and totally eliminate that evil force, that they would not be able to disrupt peace in the world and further their goals of destroying Israel. And that is really the fact that the world is not standing up to the bully of the world. Little Israel, who's a tiny little country, is standing up to evil in the world and fighting the battles for the good in the world against evil. But not only do we have to do it, we have to constantly contend with all the criticism that we get in the world, which is insanity, and in Europe and in Hague and all these things that Israel's been through already. This is unbelievable. This nightmare started a year ago, and Israel still has a lot more work to do. But the answer is we will succeed. Nothing will stop Israel from defending itself and from destroying evil in the world. That's apparently the function. We know we're light to the nations to bring Torah, but sometimes we have to be light to the nations to show what it is to use force to fight against enemies. It's something that Israel doesn't like doing. Israel's a nation of peace. It doesn't like flexing its muscles, and it has to do so much fighting. And this is so unfair to all of our young men here in Israel, and women, brave people that are in battle and giving their lives, and they barely had a chance to raise families, and a lot of them don't come back from the battlefield. It's just so unfair that they have to fight the battles against all evil in the whole world, remain silent. the opposite. If they would remain silent, okay, it would be a little easier, but they're not remaining silent, they're coming against us. And that's unfair, but Israel is rising to the occasion to fight against this evil. And in the portion, right away, I said to myself, this has to be hinted to in the portion. And of course it is. There are certain hints to what's going on, and we can find many other hints, of the blessing and the curse here, and many different things. But I want to just focus on just only a couple of verses. At the end of the whole portion, it says, Vayikra Moshe el kol Yisrael. Moshe gathers all of Israel. And he says to them, you've seen what God has done before your eyes in Egypt, to Paro and his servants and to his land. You saw all the miraculous miracles. Hamasot HaGdolot, the great miracles that your eyes saw. And all those miraculous wonders, those great wonders. And in here, right away, a question comes to, we're talking about many years after the fact. This is at the end of Moshe Rabbeinu's life. And he's giving a pep talk to Israel before they enter the land of Israel. As we know, the whole book of Deuteronomy was written the last month of his life. And the question is, Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, now your eyes have seen. 40 years after leaving Egypt, what is he mentioning the whole story of Egypt over here? And it goes on, and right away you have to realize who was around now that came out of Egypt. Well, we know the women were survived. They weren't punished like a lot of the men. That whole generation, anyone who was above 20 died in the desert already. But the women were still around. And together, also the children that were between 20 and 60, they were also around here now. And they experienced and they saw, so they saw they saw as children, right? Because anyone that was over 20, as we said, they died in the desert. But those who were then younger, right, now would be anywhere between 20 and 60 years old. And they experienced, that feeling of what it was to see the miracles of Egypt, whatever they remember. And the tribe of the Levites as well, they didn't die in the desert. So we had some representatives that were still around, of course, Kalev and Yoshua and Joshua, as we all know, and who entered the land as well. So Moshe Rabbeinu is reminding them, that group, he's reminding them, wow, you saw it with your own eyes. And now listen to verse 3. Verse 3, Moshe Rabbeinu says, V'lo natan Hashem lechem leiv ladat. God didn't give you a heart to know, and eyes to see, and ears to hear, ad hayom hazeh, until today. So something happened. There's an expression in Hebrew, nafala simon. Simon is one of those coins that you used to put in the phones in the old days, like a token. In the trains, you get these tokens. I don't know how it works anymore in the trains. But when I was a kid, I remember getting the tokens. And in Israel, they have those tokens for the phone in the old days. You put them in, you buy a lot of them. Especially if you want to calling America from Israel, we want to call our parents, we'd have to take a whole bag of them. So there's an expression in Hebrew, nafala simon. When someone finally gets it, we say the token fell. Click. You hear the token fall into the phone or fall into whatever it is, the machine that absorbs it. And here, that's what Moshe Rabbeinu is saying to Israel, verse 3. God gave you, right? God didn't give you a heart to know and eyes to see and hear, and eyes to see and ears to hear until today. In other words, something happened that very, very day that you woke up. You realize that something has happened. And in other words, there was a huge change of their whole understanding of things at that very moment. I want to read to you a beautiful Rashi. Rashi explains this verse and connects to what we're talking about. Rashi says, Lo natan lechem leiv ladat, right? And Rashi says, Lakir et chazdei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? To know the love and kindness of God, ulidavek bo, and to cleave to God. In other words, God did us so many miracles, but it took 40 years for it finally to rub into people to realize, wow, what did God do for me? And that's a very, very big thing. It's a very, very powerful thing. That people in this world, they can live many years, and they finally wake up much later down the road and come to a realization of what was done for them. It takes a long time sometimes to learn to appreciate what God has done for you, what God has done for us. And Rashi goes for another angle, and he continues to say, Ad hayom was it to this very day, as I said, the token fell that very day. What does Rashi say? Shamati shoto hayom. I heard, Rashi says he heard this explanation, that this very day, Shnatan Moshe Sefer Torah Levnei Levi. Rashi is explaining what happened that very day. And Rashi is explaining, this is the very day that's mentioned in chapter 31, in the portion we're going to read in a couple of weeks. Verse number 9, where it says, Vayechtov Moshe et Torah azot. Moshe Rabbeinu wrote the entire Torah, and he gave it to the Kohanim B'nai Levi, the priests from the tribe of the Levites, the ones who carried the Ark of the Covenant. As we all know, right? And he gave them into the elders of Israel. So Moshe Rabbeinu gives them this Torah scroll. This is the end, really close to the last day of his life, and he gives them the Torah scroll. And Rashi goes on he's talking about that. And Rashi says that very day that Moshe Rabbeinu gave them the Torah scroll is referring to this very day. And what does it say? Rashi continued to say. He's saying, Ba'u kol Yisrael lifnei Moshe. All of Israel came to Moshe Rabbeinu when he gave it to the tribe of the Levites. He gave the Torah to them. V'amru lo Moshe Rabbeinu, af anu amadnu b'Sinai. We also stood on Mount Sinai, v'kibalnu et Torah, and we received the Torah. V'nitna lanu, and it was given to us as well. Ma ata mashlit et b'nei shiftecha alea. So why are you giving the privilege of your tribe, the Levites, to receive the Torah? We were all, what did we chop liver? We were all on the mountain, we all received the Torah. Vayoru lanu, and what are they going to say to us? The Levite tribe is going to say to us, Machal, tomorrow, Lo lechem nitna, it wasn't given to you. Look, Moshe Rabbeinu gave to us. Lanu nitna. V'samach Moshe ala davar. Moshe Rabbeinu was so happy. V'al zot amar lehem hayom hazeh niyet elam. He goes, today you have become a true nation. Hayom hazeh hivanti, today I understand. Shatem dveikim b'chavitzim b'makom. You are cleaving and you want God. You really want to cleave to God. This is a very fascinating explanation Rashi is giving. He's basically saying is that the realization that came down of not only appreciate the amazing things that God did to us was that the Torah is our inheritance, is all of Israel. Not to think it was given just to the Levites, but it was an inheritance of all of Israel. And all of Israel. And that Moshe Rabbeinu was so happy when he heard that all of Israel wants to declare their connection, their everlasting connection and devotion to the Torah. This was, for Moshe Rabbeinu, the greatest present he could have gotten before he left the world. To realize that he succeeded in his mission and making sure that the nation will cleave to the Torah. Dear friends, if we think about what's going on today, and what we just spoke about a moment ago about what happened this week and all that, the nation of Israel today in the land, we're here in the land of Israel for over 70 years since the formation of the state of Israel in 1948. We came back here without a statehood. And literally, we are fighting for our very existence. And the miracle that, we've seen miracles before in the 6-Day War. We've seen great miracles. And God, this week, did a tremendous miracle. What happened? When, again, with the beepers and the walkie-talkies exploding, and literally, it's a biblical event. It's something that it's beyond nature. It's something biblical. And I'm waiting, basically, we're looking at the thing, I'm waiting when all of Israel, this is really, we think about it, for that great day we can all celebrate when all of Israel, when the token will fall and we'll realize, my goodness, look at all the miracles that God has been doing for us. Since we're back in the land, since the very miracle of forming the state of Israel, the very miracle of beating out all those Arab armies that came against us when we declared statehood. And as we continue through the 6-Day War and the Yom Kippur War, although it was a tragedy, but it ended with miracles when we were able to overcome the enemy. And this has been an ongoing struggle for our existence, and here, against these enemies, and we're suffering so much with the terrible loss of so many dear, precious individuals of Israel that gave their life. And then to have a happy event that God is showing how He's fighting our battles. I mean, the chances of something like this succeeding and what succeeded against the enemy is mind-boggling. I mean, if anyone can think about a little bit about what went into this mission, knows that this is something mind-boggling. The chances of it working perfectly the way it worked, it's only because God blesses the handiwork, again, for those who are fighting for the sake of Israel. And this kind of miracle that God did is just an example of many, many more. It says that God in the future will redeem Israel like He redeemed us in the beginning. So the miracles we saw in Egypt were just beginning they're going to get stronger. Although, again, we said there are miracles throughout our return to the land, but they're going to get stronger and stronger, those miracles. And we have to just have that faith in God and show our cleaving to the Torah, that we don't want to give up that right that we receive that Torah from God. It's a blessing to us, no less than anyone, no less than the Levites. All of Israel received that Torah. And we have to show our devotion to God. We understand that we are cleaving to God and cleaving to His Torah, and we're showing our appreciation. We will merit in miracles, with endless miracles and endless bounty and endless blessing, as the Torah, this week's portion, is so clearly outlines all the long list of blessings if we follow the Word of God. It's basically what's happening in this week's portion is all about the covenant. The covenant in the land, the covenant God is saying, when you will enter the land of Israel, on the blessing and the curse, you will declare your allegiance to God in that covenant, which is really, I'm not going to go now, it's a whole lesson in itself, to understand the different covenants that were given throughout Israel throughout the desert. There are those who say there were 3 covenants in the desert, and others say there were 2 in the desert, and one on Grizim and Eval. That's another lesson in itself. Maybe we'll talk about it next week, or more about the covenants. But this point of seeing, of the token falling, come to a realization of the amazing miracles that God did for us. It's fascinating. It's in this week's portion. That's the connection where reminding us what happened in Egypt. Just like you saw those miracles, the prophet says the day will come, and you will no longer say, talking about leaving Egypt, we will talk about how God gathered us and brought us back to the land of Israel. And we were talking about those amazing miracles which happened. And this is really one great lesson we have to learn to appreciate, and to realize, to put our faith on God and realize that we will overcome all these enemies of Israel, and we will just see more and more great miracles until we build the kingdom of Hashem in the land, when our third temple will stand again in Jerusalem. And there will be true world peace and true love for humanity. And evil will be eliminated. And that's what we're waiting for. The answer is cleave to Hashem and the Torah. And we will see great miracles happening. Shabbat Shalom, B'sarot Tovot, Yeshuot V'nechamot.